Good afternoon, class. Welcome back to another lesson with Mr. Schmidt. Today we're taking a look at human genetic disorders. This is lesson 15.2 for our biology. And yesterday, or the last time we met, we talked about the different karyotypes and certain genetic disorders that we can notice when looking at karyotypes. Today we'll be diving directly into those karyotypes and taking a look at some of the other things that can happen when we have problems during mitosis. This is why mitosis is so important. It's also why understanding how protein synthesis works is so important. Let's take a look at some disorders. First things we're going to talk about is some of the effects of errors during meiosis. In the interactivity, we looked at non-disjunction or non-disjunction during meiosis 1 and non-disjunction during meiosis 2 and the problems that can occur. We'll describe how small changes in DNA can affect human traits. So the traits that we see as far as characteristics of people, if you have a change happen all the way at the beginning, at the very first cell, when sperm and egg join, if there's a mutation that happens there, that mutation is going to be found in all of the cells of that individual. And so we'll talk about some of the repercussions to that. Let's take a look at the first part. In looking at non-disjunction is kind of like the word sounds, not unjoining, disjoining. So non-disjunction is when homologous chromosomes do not separate as they should. So they're not going to be splitting apart as they should. Let's see if I can get a little highlighter here. Spotlight, sure. So non-disjunction, not separating like they're supposed to be. So in this example here, we're going to wind up with gametes that have an abnormal number of chromosomes. So normal cell here, going through non-disjunction during meiosis 1. You can see that the yellow did not separate out. The reds separated out normally. And now as it continues through, this cell has too much yellow chromosome. This cell has too much yellow chromosome. This cell has no yellow chromosome. And this cell also has no yellow chromosome. Obviously, that's going to be a problem. So gametes with an abnormal number of chromosomes may result. Non-disjunction for meiosis 1, the key here, you're going to have 4 damaged gametes. All 4 are going to be broken. Okay, so meiosis 1. Here are some of the examples. If we take a look at Down syndrome can occur. The most common form of trisomy involves 3 copies of chromosome number 21, and we call it Down syndrome. Down syndrome has a particular set of characteristics. Probably everyone in here has probably at some point in time met someone who's had Down syndrome. And you can see here, chromosomes 1, 2, 3, all the way down to number 20, normal. 21, however, has 3 chromosome 21s. This individual is a female, and she has Down syndrome. There are a couple of other chromosomal disorders that we can take a look at here. Non-disjunction of the X chromosome. So if you think about this, the X chromosome is our sex chromosome, and if you don't have it separating apart, it's going to lead to a disorder that's called Turner's syndrome. Turner's syndrome, an individual would have an extra X chromosome. In males, non-disjunction may cause Klinefelter's syndrome. So Klinefelter syndrome, this is another one where we have a non-disjunction happening with the X chromosome. From molecules to phenotype, and again, I feel like I'm going a little bit quick on this. Make sure you do the reading if you didn't. There are better or additional examples in the reading. But from molecule to phenotype, when we talk about the molecular changes that happen within our DNA and that happen when we have non-disjunctions, we're going to wind up seeing some changes to phenotype. Remember that phenotype is the physical characteristic that's going to appear in an individual. So changes in the DNA sequence of a gene can change proteins. We talked about these different kinds of changes. We have a point mutation where we're just flip-flopping particular amino acids or particular nucleic acids that then give us a different amino acid. We could have a deletion or an insertion, and those mutations cause bigger changes downstream. So when we look at these changes, we get a change to the amino acid sequence, and then that change can also affect the phenotype. If you don't have the correct sequencing, you wind up having issues. Down below here you can see this is a normal red blood cell, and then these are sickle cells. Sickle cells form when there is a change to one protein in one of the developments within this amino acids, and we wind up getting these cells that look like sickles instead of looking like the nice round red blood cells that we should have. So that's an example. That particular change occurs because of one change in one amino acid, which was caused by a change in one point mutation of DNA. The neat thing is we can track it, so we can find it. Okay. Here's another example, cystic fibrosis. Most cases of cystic fibrosis result from the deletion of 3 bases in the DNA of a single gene. So cystic fibrosis is where an individual has very thick and sticky mucus, so they have some breathing challenges. And this individual here is getting some treatment for cystic fibrosis using a machine to measure their breathing. The body doesn't produce the normal CFTR protein, and so by that we get cystic fibrosis, an individual who has extra thick and sticky mucus in their lungs, which makes it difficult to breathe. But this one here is, again, 3 bases getting deleted from a single gene. So it's something that is a difficulty that is challenging for the individual with it, but it's not so tough that they perish. Because we're going to notice that some of these mutations, you might be wondering, well, how does this mutation stay within the human population? Well, some mutations are such that they aren't so bad that a person dies, so that person can live, and then they might pass that mutation on to their offspring. There are a few, not very many, but a few genetic advantages to having some of these diseases and some mutations. Some alleles that cause disease may also have benefits. The example we talked about earlier was a person who has 1 copy of sickle cell. So this would be an individual who is heterozygous for the sickle cell disease gene. And that individual will have protection from malaria. Malaria is a parasite that can be transferred to individuals through mosquito bites. Well, if you have a copy of sickle cell and your blood is half good reds and half sickle cell, the malaria can't survive in that environment. So places where malaria is found generally have populations that have a higher number of individuals with sickle cell disease that survive, because they are the people who can survive through malaria. The other example given is cystic fibrosis, CF. Carrying 1 copy of the CF allele provides protection from typhoid bacterium. So CF, cystic fibrosis, if you have only 1 allele, then you're kind of like partially producing, but not fully producing. And as I mentioned, it makes thick and sticky mucus. And so this bacteria that produces typhoid cannot survive in that environment. So, I mean, the textbook says it's genetic advantages. Yes, but is it? Not sure. You have sickle cell disease, so you don't get malaria. You have CF disease, but you don't get typhoid bacterium. Yeah, it is an advantage, kind of. Okay? And that is it for lesson number 2. So, as I mentioned, make sure you do the reading. These questions are going to be posted on Classroom, actually within the same video assignment. So take a moment to answer these 3 questions on Classroom. I'll catch you in the next one.